Welcome, everybody. We are live with David from Symphony. And Symphony is an ambitious modular stablecoin platform combining multiple currencies into a single ecosystem inspired by musical concepts. It focuses on user friendly AI integrations, regulatory compliance, and interoperability among stablecoins. Symphony is designed to be accessible to both crypto and traditional users, trying to pave the way for broad adoption with this future neobank layer. So, David, thank you so much for joining me, man. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I saw in your previous conversation with Quasar, you were wearing a Metallica t-shirt. And so I'm a huge metalhead. And so I would love to know what other bands you listen to and like your story. Where'd you grow up? What do you love other than tech? All that kind of good stuff.
Well, I started with some early bands like that were all basically emo or metal. Maybe some punk in there. So there were things like Evanescence, Linkin Park, and Metallica. I was introduced to by one of the schoolmates that I had at the time. So I got into everything from there, and it has been a long time since. But it's basically formed my entire preference for music from that point. So I would say I'd lean towards that stuff. Of course, everyone likes things like Evanescence, or what was the name of that one band where I cannot remember it.
See you in a second, I'm sure.
Yeah, whatever.
I know, like when
Um,
everybody was listening to Metallica, I was more into like Pantera and Sepultura, but certainly have mad respect for Metallica. It's probably the best metal band of all time.
there is a restaurant that you should check out over in Chicago. It's called Kuma's Corner, and they have a list of burgers that all have different names of metal bands, and every single one has a different ingredients list that's supposed to represent aspects of the metal band. There's
Ah,
one where the ingredient is where every ingredient is a food item except for on one burger, and that one burger that different ingredient is anger, and you have no idea what that's supposed to mean until you see it. And when it
right. I would
comes
assume
to
it's like hot sauce or something, right?
yeah, it looks like it got angry at the burger, slammed it, and then started stabbing it with fries, and that's how it comes to you. So, but like for one like the Earth ride, like I was literally told just good luck on that because like I was eating it alone, and it was a huge plate that came out for it. I have no idea what that was about, but like that's
That's funny.
literally the way that it came.
So you mentioned Chicago. Is that where you grew up? Is that where you're from?
That's where I went for my undergrad, Illinois Tech. But my graduate degrees, those came from Georgia State. So like I switched around a little bit.
Gotcha. And then other than tech, what are the things that you like doing that keep you occupied when you're not in front of your PC?
Well, most recently it's been work all the time, but
Yeah, I'm
that
sure.
with this it involves a lot of things that are affecting the world as it is. So, like with anything with investing, it's really, really easy if you can just focus on market fundamentals. If you can focus on what's happening in the market, macroeconomics, and what's likely to happen later, that's very, very easy. But it's very difficult and has been difficult for the last few years if everything in the market relies on government action. If political changes result in changes in the market, then that's when things become difficult on investing. And recently, everything has been about politics. They get started getting forced into things, into all sorts of different things like media for decades now. But like at this point, it's in literally everything. Basically, the government moves and everything moves with it at this point.
So I
Um,
assume you are a libertarian at heart, like myself.
yeah, that's the direction I lean. Though the Libertarian Party would be a different thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess I just mean we can probably manage ourselves and do a decent job of it without everything being centralized.
Yeah, uh, but then I going on the previous question though, I will also throw in I do also like psychology. So like I haven't focused on politics, but I do like psychology. So there is outside of software, I do focus on fantasy things, psychology, and anything with a good story. So I'd focus on that. But
So then I got one for you. Are you Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
I would say Harry Potter is pretty good for what it is. I do. I liked those stories growing up. I really liked the books. But Lord of the Rings had better movies, and that
Much better.
appeals
Yeah.
to a larger audience. So I'd say I'd likely lean in that direction, just because not the Hobbit movies, but the original trilogy.
Sure. I'm trying to think of the one that's on Amazon right now. That's a prequel for Sauron. Anyways, it's pretty good. The first couple episodes are slow, and then it gets really, really good.
Mm.
But you mentioned also before we came on air riding motorcycles, and you said if only I still had one. So what happened there?
Yeah, I got one in college and started riding that around a little bit. I started with an R6 because I'm a tall guy, so like anything smaller I wouldn't fit, and even that one I barely fit. Started riding that one around a bit, and that was pretty fun. I liked it. It was you could I've heard other people describe it this way. It's essentially like therapy on wheels. So you ride around, you get into some situations, or you just ride fast, or you just go on a small cruise. Very nice. No matter what, you're going to be coming off that bike and you're going to be feeling good. So you just like it's just fun, essentially. So what I would do in Atlanta, there's the perimeter. Every now and then, I would just take the bike out and then just go for a couple laps around the perimeter. It's super easy.
Nice. Yeah, here in the Phoenix area, not too far from our house, there is a car show every Saturday night, and tons of motorcycle people go there too. And there's always dudes on crotch rockets, like standing on their motorcycles and doing wheelies and stuff down the street. So, uh, well, given that we kind of opened up talking about Metallica and music, Symphony and its core components have like this musical theme, and I heard you kind of talk about that on the Quasar podcast, and I kind of got the impression that you have played instruments all your life, or at least love music. And so I'm hoping you can tell us, how did you come to that musical theme for symphony and melody and aria and that kind of stuff?
Well, crypto in general has this thing where everyone wants people to use just their thing. So like Ethereum wants everyone to use Ethereum. Bitcoiners want everyone to use Bitcoin. Solana, like everyone wants people to just use Sol. Like every single one, they want them to use that and just that. With It's the same with stablecoins. People look at stablecoins and they think, "Oh, this is great. This is something to have for financial rails, change everything, and all that stuff." You have VC saying that everyone needs their own stablecoin and all that stuff, trying to expand the market like that, and basically have everyone to have like David having David coin or something like that. It does not make sense. And with all of the space may be winner take all, but at least for right now, everyone can work together to expand the space for right now. So that's this focus. With music, you have it being a little bit different from things like sports. With sports, you have a single team and everyone fights and like, well, not fights for sports, but martial arts as a sport, everyone fights. So you have sports, and you have a single team that can win, or a single person that can win, depending on the sport. Everyone competes, and you have one winner. One person takes all. With music, you have everyone working together, and everyone creates a cohesive whole from that. With this, we have a system where we don't just have to push U.S. dollars. Every other stablecoin is pushing U.S. dollars and pushing that on everyone. It's kind of like pushing English on everyone. Yes, you have people all over the world that can speak English. It's seen as like the travel language, the universal language. So everyone has at least a passing knowledge of some aspect of it. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people. So you can travel around speaking English and do pretty well.
Yeah.
Same with the dollar. You can do pretty well traveling around with that. But there are plenty of people all around that don't want to use that and want to use their own thing. They want to speak their own language. They want to use their own currency. So this is what this does. What we have is we have a system where you can have everyone using their own thing, and all of those are fully interchangeable. So we've essentially solved for value. So you can travel around using Japanese yen, which you earn in if you work in Japan, you earn in Japanese yen. So you can travel around with that, and because you earn in that, you see every value in that. You're curious about value as denominated in Japanese yen. That's how you see those units. That's like living in America and measuring things in feet and inches, or living elsewhere and measuring things in centimeters. You're going to convert back into your base unit, the one that you relate to things on.
Right.
So it's an easy way to do that, in the same way that having a translator makes it easier for people to speak Spanish. So on this, like in a symphony, what you have or in a orchestral composition, what you have is you have different instruments, all sorts of different instruments that all come together to make that same thing. You have like the cellos, you have the violins, you have the trombones, you have the cannons in one specific situation. And all of those things come together to make one nice thing. That's what Symphony is. All of these different currencies are coming together to make one cohesive symphony that everyone can partake in, everyone can join in on, and everyone can pull value from. That's the way what it's built for.
Then what is the analogy of the conductor in the ecosystem? Who would be, or what would be the conductor?
Oh, for right now, it's me. Like I'm the one who's essentially pushing things forward with the orchestra to make the symphony. So that would be my position. Like with the Orchestra Labs is the group of devs who are making symphony. So like the conductor, the one who is running the orchestra currently is me. Eventually that should fall by the wayside, and what we should have is a group of developers who are all working on this, not necessarily one development organization, but a bunch of them who are all working on this and who can all pull it forward. Now, what we could do with that is what we could do with that to get that there is to get it used by larger systems, for example, BRICS, which I even have information on. I could show that if you'd like, and have these larger groups actually partake in the development. At that point, Orchestra Labs just becomes one more development group that's working on it, and I become just one more person that's working on it. At that point, the conductor in that case would be the idea that is continuing this instead of just me. But for right now, if I go, this stops being built. I am currently the conductor of the
So
orchestra.
I get, is the main goal decentralized governance where the community is the conductor?
Yes, the end goal is that I would just be just another person around.
Sure. Okay. And then what instruments do you play?
Well, I played the cello, which you could find like people don't generally know that one, but you can find that one with there's a group called Two Cellos, I think, and then there are a couple others that you could find on YouTube that all play it. But
Nice.
I do prefer the piano, and everyone likes the guitar, but I do prefer the piano to that.
Yeah, so my daughter's boyfriend plays cello and guitar, and so that's why I knew you had something under there. So then, what's the core problem or the gap in DeFi or the stablecoin landscape that Symphony's trying to solve?
Well, currently the big problem is that everyone's trying to push their thing. Now that works if you have a lot of different options, but with the way it is right now, everyone's trying to push U.S. dollars. So what you have essentially is all these governments who are coming in and saying that you need to buy their bags, essentially. So they want to print debt and they want you to buy that debt. They want to make treasuries and have you buy that. So currently, with the current system with the U.S., what's going on is they have a set of banks who are obliged to buy their treasuries, and then they loan money to the banks, so that way those banks can buy treasuries. None of this goes on the M3 because loans don't go on the M3. Loans are not made money; they are just loans. So what you have there is a system where the government is printing money, and they need to find another way to curb that, another way to pull in demand. Because with the U.S. government specifically, China and Japan are no longer buying those bonds, and China is actively dumping them for gold.
Right.
So they need more
And
demand
who
for
knows
that.
what Bitcoin is going to do there too? I mean, I imagine that government treasuries and reserves at central banks will,
Mhm.
if they're not already quietly accumulating Bitcoin, it's not too far off. And obviously, they're going to dump treasuries. Yeah.
Well, maybe. But what they have explicitly mentioned, and what where the price has actively been running up is in gold. Bitcoin, you've had price run up as well. No one's actively talked about it, but China has very literally uh, opened up legislation to allow them to use other currencies, which then followed by them dumping U.S. bonds in order to buy gold. So that is one where they very specifically moved in that direction, and Japan, they have explicitly stated. So maybe people buy Bitcoin, but I don't know. One thing Symphony was made for was for excuse me, was for adaptability. So I don't need to predict the future in order to have this work. It's adaptable, so that way, whatever way the monetary system moves, this can adapt and move with it. So there is that. what the problem that this is solving for, though, going back to that, with the U.S. government doing that, with China dumping the bonds, and with Japanese government explicitly stating that they're in a position where they cannot do that anymore, where they are literally worse than Greece, is what they said. You have them all pushing to pull demand from somewhere else. That's stable coins. That is, they're saying that stable coin suppliers have to buy bonds, specifically bonds, in order to back their system. So basically, everyone has to go onto the Circle system, which Circle bribed them for. But that aside,
Yeah, that's
now,
right. That's the lobbying and all that stuff.
yeah, it's lobbying. It's not a bribe. It's lobbying every
No,
single
I
time.
mean, I think with Coinbase, being
Yeah,
super involved in the U.S. government, it's great, but it's also for their own benefit. Sure. I mean, I think
yeah,
everybody
but
knows
again,
that.
yeah. Uh, Hey, every single time, people always embrace it, but and forget. But every single time, it's literally a business just trying to make sure that they don't have to compete as hard anymore.
Well,
Yep.
one of the things I saw in the stablecoin bill that is going through is that you have to be a large regulated institution in order to issue stablecoins, according to that bill. And so, is that good? I mean, you can argue it either way, but I would say it definitely cuts down on fraud, but it also cuts down on choice. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so, my understanding is you chose Cosmos because of the modularity, and I think I've
Mhm.
heard you say that different reserve systems can be plugged into Symphony like modules. And
Yeah.
so, I guess, what do you mean by that? And then, does that mean that there could eventually be thousands of modules plugged into the chain?
Oh no, not thousands, because we can make that for each type. So stablecoins have three major types, and everyone thinks that there's only one now because Circle and Tether. But there are three different major types. There's the algorithmic one, which everyone's scared of, despite Athena. And I
Sure.
will specifically point out Athena because Athena is the third largest right now, and they rocketed up within 1 year, despite being algorithmic, because everyone wanted a decentralized option. So they are an algorithmic coin. Now, with those three types, there are the algorithmic, the centralized, and the over collateralized. So every stablecoin is going to be on some measure of those 3 points. And with that, what we can do is we can essentially create modules for each of these. So each one would have an information source and would have a backing through that information source that we would call to in order to make sure that everything is balanced. And that balancing system would then have to make sure that everything that users are able to get their value. So one of those things with, for example, the over collateralized system is checking for checking for the price of the underlying to make sure that it is still remaining over collateralized. With the centralized one, it wouldn't be calling to that over collateralized reserve. It would be calling over to an account that holds the treasuries or
Proof of
multiple
reserve,
accounts
right?
that hold those treasuries. So adding modules, we don't have to add thousands for
Gotcha.
thousands of different stablecoins. We only have to add three, maybe a few more, but three would be a rough baseline. And as long as those are adaptable enough, then we only need three.
So, what about tokenization of precious metals or other things that aren't necessarily a currency that people would use to pay each other? How does that work as far as plugging in modules and getting those things tokenized?
Well, they would run off the same thing. So, for example, if you wanted to have a centralized system, then you would call to an account that shows you that gold balance. If you wanted to trade in gold, then it would call over to one that had a gold balance for the
Like
centralized
PAX
system.
D or something totally separate?
I know. I'm thinking like very literally, like the central bank holds gold reserves. That's like what China's buying it up for. So like you could have an account where that is backed by gold in the physical world, and you could call to that as the source. Oh wait, no, you said like PAX G as in
Yeah, and I said
using
PAX
a
D and
similar
I meant
system.
PAX G.
Yeah. So not calling to PAX G, but like using a similar. Yeah. We would be that module would operate in the same manner as them. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you mentioned, so I actually don't know much about Athena, but you mentioned, the Terra UST collapse, and I certainly have PTSD. I lost six figures in that one. I know Symphony tested for, I think you said a 99% DPEG of your stablecoin. And
Yeah.
so I'm hoping you can explain Symphony's hybrid stablecoin model and how that prevents depegging and like a total collapse.
Now there are two different systems that. All right, so let's start from how stablecoins work. With stablecoins, every single one is trying to solve the same problem. That problem is you have two different systems that are both moving in different directions. Let's have the fingers this way, so it looks like balance lines. So you have two different systems that are each moving at different balances at different rates. So the problem is trying to keep those balanced against the
So one is the derivative and one is the actual currency.
yeah. So now what you end up having there is you have like everyone looks at that as a two problem problem. So a two variable problem. So a math equation with only two variables, but that's not the case. What you have is a three variable problem, and everyone's ignoring the third variable because it's not explicitly in your face. And that third variable is user sentiment. What happens when people panic? This is what Terra failed to take into account. Now, it was literally pointed out, but the owner of the owner of the dev group at that time, he said, "Shut up, you're poor," and so didn't do anything because he was trying to dismiss the FUD. So he very literally explicitly ignored the issue, and then someone else found that issue and then exploited that issue. So that's what happened there. Going back to the problem though, what you try to solve for with those different situations is having the value of the underlying always match the value of the base. So the base that you're trying to peg to. So with that. Now that can be treasuries as the underlying. That could be an over collateralized system or anything else, like the different types of stablecoins that we mentioned. So with that, essentially, if people panic, you have a system that runs away from you, and you then have to account for that. There are two different ways to account for that. One is by forced selling, or freezing the market, a centralized control that basically stops trading. So you
What
have that
USDC
as an
can do,
option.
right?
What was that?
And is that what USDC has the power to do?
Yeah, USDC, USDT, and MakerDAO all do this. MakerDAO being a forced sale, whereas USDT and USDC have market halts and blacklisting.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, another way to look at this is as a horse. So, like, I want to use this imagery for a specific reason. So, you're trying to measure a horse. You have people arguing over whether to measure it in inches or centimeters, when the problem is that the horse is running. The horse running is the panic here. And I use this imagery specifically because it's really hard to measure a horse when it's running. And now you can stop the horse, or you can tie a cart to the horse, so that way you're always moving with it. What we do is we tie that cart to the horse and we move with it. MakerDAO and other systems, they try to stop the horse. So with our system, we have a reserve that that underlies all modules that go on top of it. This is why we have this is why we have a a 2x backing on our over collateralized system now.
So
But
that's
we
the
would have
reserve ratio, 2x backing.
yeah, and then we would also have that 1x backing on top of other systems. So we would make those systems safer because every system has a flaw. Every single one has a flaw that can be exploited. So we'd be making those even safer. And we can jump into those flaws if you like. Now with
Sure. I mean, no, keep going, keep going.
yeah, with what this does essentially is we take in fees, much like how USDT and USDC take fees, but instead of those going into our pockets, those go into the reserve. So every single time the reserve is off, it refills. So that way you always make sure that value goes back from the reserve into the exchange, back to the user. So that way, every single time when there's a drop, that happens. Now what we can do about that three variable problem, there's another thing there, is we can drop that. So we can drop that from three variables to two, because if we don't have to do price discovery on this, then this is no longer moving as much. If every single time we want to find the price of US dollars and match a stablecoin to that, then instead of trying to match a stablecoin based off of speculation, based off of arbitrage, which is where Terra went wrong, then what we could do is we could measure it to the underlying. We could find out the price of the dollar relative to the backing, relative to the treasuries, relative to gold, relative
Or like
to
DXY or something. And so,
yeah.
do you guys use an oracle? How does the information make it to the chain? Help me understand that.
We do use oracles, but that's another attack vector as well. So we also use multiple oracles and make sure that those are backed up. Now, with that, you have to make sure that you have multiple oracles so that way you can do information cleaning. Information cleaning because any singular oracle can be attacked. If that information vector is attacked, then you no longer have clean information. You no longer have valid information, and that can lead to a depeg itself. If your information on US dollars comes in at the value of a penny, then your information source is compromised. This is essentially what happened. It's not, well, it's close enough. There's a similar event that happened with regards to the value of USDC to some other unit, to some other crypto that happened very recently on a DEX. The way that it was exploited was they essentially they essentially moved the price down so that way they could just pull out all the USDC and not have anyone worry about it. Uh, I don't remember where
Yeah,
that occurred.
what chain was that on? I forget. I remember it was a couple months ago, right?
Yeah. I don't remember where it occurred, and I don't remember what it was tied to. But that's how they got a lot of USDC out of that, and we that's why information cleaning is needed. Any security system is exploitable. If I wanted to hack your computer, for example, I could try to hack it online. I could try to find your IP and all that, but it would be so much easier if I was in the room and I got your keystrokes, or if I got a keylogger onto your computer, or if I got an information, or if I compromised the information line between your computer and your ISP. All of those are attack vectors. So even the Oracle, even the information coming in is an attack vector. So we have to make sure that we secure that as well.
Yeah, so we run a validator for SATA protocol, and it's an interesting play on oracles. And I think that they eliminate a lot of those attack vectors. And
Mm.
so at some point, I would love to facilitate a conversation between you and those guys.
Yeah,
Um,
if they clean that information, we'd love to use their
yeah,
service.
100%, 100%. Um, so how does Symphony onboard and tokenize currencies? Is it through users or is it through financial institutions?
Well, that would depend on the module. Now, the one that we have right now is an over collateralized system. So all we need to do for that is change governance. Because with the collateral always being the same, all we need to do is just check the oracles. So as long as we can pull in that information, we're good. And if we had a treasury system, then we would have to set up a bank in that country, then start buying treasuries, and then set up the dev systems between the two. But with this, or pull in stablecoins that already do that for us. Now, with this though, all we have to do is just change governance, so that way we can just query for it, and then that information comes in, and as long as we are cleaning that information properly, then what we could do is we could pull in that new currency information, and this becomes a very adaptable system through that. What that allows for is for us to embrace different currencies that others can't. For example, USDC and USDT, because of those additional costs that I mentioned on time and money, you have to pay the employees to set up everything, set up the bank, set up the treasury, set up the dev routes between your bank and your offerings. All of that stuff costs money. It's going to take them months, and it's going to take them millions of dollars in order to get set up in any of these places. Which means that places like, just using this as an example off the top of my head, I don't remember their M3, but the places like the Mauritius Islands or Jamaica may be prohibitively expensive for them because of that. Not for us though, because with an over collateralized system, with a decentralized system, what you could do is you could just pull that information and you're good. Now, again, we don't depeg because we're pegged to the underlying, but even if we did, we do have other systems in place. We have information cleaning, so that can't be attacked. We have the over collateralized system where Terra fell to 80% of original value for 4 days before it dropped further. Having a reserve, literally just having a reserve, would have stopped that, because they didn't have a reserve. They just burnt on one side, minted on the other. So that's a thing there. On top of that, we also have a maximum supply. So even if we still got the terror situation, that would be capped by the maximum supply. So we wouldn't get an infinite print like them. We wouldn't end up with 1 trillion coins the way they did, because we have that backstop as well. We have security measures for every single attack vector that we could think of. And if someone finds a way to attack it that we did not know about, as long as they point it out to us, we can fix that up too.
Are you
We
familiar
have all
with
these safety.
are you familiar with Sora, the project on Polkadot? They have a they were it's based on helping countries create CBDCs, and they're an algorithmic stablecoin, and At one point, it was about $1,000 per Sora token, and now I think there's like 17 zeros after the decimal, and kind of the same thing. And obviously, they didn't have a reserve, and they're minting on one side and burning on the other. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's good to hear.
yeah, there
So,
were a lot of Terra clones.
so here's the part that I still kind of don't understand. Let's say I'm a citizen and I live in Jamaica or one of the islands that you're talking about. How do I on ramp into Symphony and suddenly have a tokenized version of my local currency?
Well, in order to get that, we do have to have other things in place. For example, you have to have an on and off ramp. What we're looking at is Transact for that. But assuming we have an on and off ramp in place, what you can do is you can get on either through there or through a centralized exchange or through a decentralized exchange. As long as you have an access point to us, you can get onto Symphony from there. Once you have the base coin Melody, then what you could do from there is you could trade that in. Well, we're not going to have your currency at first. Assuming that we have your currency in by governance, then great. That's already settled. If you send us a message that you want this supported, then we can put that up into governance. Once it is supported, then you can just trade in the native token for that. Or once we have the other modules in, then you can trade in the other stable coins for that. For example, USDC, USDT, USDE, USDN, and then you could trade those in for it. And what we do there is then we would start building up additional reserves for other currencies like other stable coins. Those trades allow us to get a small income that allows us to then do additional development, as well as to do further expansions like a neobank. At which point you don't even need to worry about getting onto the chain, because if you're a Web 2 user, you want things simple. At that point, you'd be using the chain to do all these things, but you wouldn't even need to know about that. You just see your account, you just see that you want to trade it into Japanese yen or into Chinese yuan, and you could just do it. You could just send it over. You could and with our AI integrations that I'm specifically working on, we've got the proof of concept and everything. What you could do is you could essentially say send $100 to mom, and wherever she is in the world, she could be in Russia, and it'll just send it over there,
Yeah, I
and
saw
it'll
your
arrive.
uh, I saw your demo. I guess it was from a couple days ago, maybe the middle of June, of the Aria wallet, and you saying, yeah, stake or unstake, whatever, and then it took care of it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, but so, and we'll get to that in a second. So with payment services and banking as a service providers and Transact and that kind of stuff, how do you get in touch with those providers? How do the listeners who might have a connection get you in touch with those providers? And can you name a couple specific providers for us to chew on to go out and maybe say, hey, do I know someone who has a connection at that place to then put in touch with Symphony?
Well, getting those is going to be very, very difficult, because a lot of these have fees and things that you have to contend with. Now it's very easy to get set up with an account with them. For example, MoonPay, Transact, and Bridge. But it's the fees that'll get you. So if you're a startup, if you're bootstrapped, if you're not funded, that's where it's going to get you. The biggest ways to get into there is to get funded, which is a difficult point in itself. You have to build up community and you have to get funded. Getting funded
So if there
is
are any VCs who are listening to this conversation, please get in touch with David. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, so like angels are the best. They're willing to, from what I'm told, they're willing to invest off of an idea. VCs, they generally invest in the team, which means you have to be a Stanford grad, you have to have 5 previous successful exits, or you have to be Elon Musk's kid.
Or they eventually want to take over the business at some point. So an angel investor is obviously better.
I'm not any of those things, so an angel investor is likely better. With partnerships though, rather than on ramps, because we can go through Transact and we can go through Transact at just the transaction fee cost. So that's a very easy way for us to get on ramps, not just to us but to Cosmos, because the wallet is going to be supporting all of Cosmos. It's going to start with us, but it is going to be multi-chain. What we can do instead of getting connections to ramp providers is getting connections to apps and developers, people who want to make things. If they want to make something and they want to have it be tied to all of the world's currencies, they can do that through us. If they want to simplify stablecoin access for their app, they can do that through us, because we will eventually support all of those other stablecoins and transfers in between them. So that no one has to worry about it. Because, for example, you don't worry about what happens in the background of TurboTax or on Twitter. You don't worry
Right.
about the API call to send a message, to save the message, or to follow someone. You just use it.
Right.
That's what we want to do for stablecoins and stablecoin access.
And so, real quickly, when you're talking about apps and developers, these are the people who you need. Is this all on CosmWasm? What is the smart contract platform that the developers are using on Symphony?
Yeah, it's currently Cosmwasm. When Cosmos changes over to EVM, then we're going to move to support that, but it is currently Cosmwasm. Ideally, we'll be able to support both, but we'll see. It's very
Okay.
likely it's just going to be EVM, but it really depends on what they did for their implementation.
So you
Uh,
mentioned EVM, and I did read somewhere online, and I don't know if this is correct. Obviously correct me if I'm wrong. I read something about Symphony chain being a sharded chain, and so that made me think of like Harmony and other sharded chains. Is that the case for Symphony? It is or is not sharded?
Not yet. Like Near being the example that was used in the white paper for a great way to approach sharding. We are not starting sharded. That is something that is in the plans. And this is the same way that it happened with Near. It was something that they planned for. It's something that they worked towards, and it's something that they tested at every stage while they worked towards it. So that would be the same path for us, especially since we're not funded. We're entirely backed by my money. So we've as we move towards that, it's not something that we're starting with. It's something that we're planning on, and it's something that we're going to move towards and test at every stage. So while we are planning on getting there, it's not something that we haven't yet.
Okay. So anyone who is listening, if you have connections to people who like to invest in some really interesting startups and be early in the game, reach out to us or reach out to David. I assume on X or any of the social platforms. I also read online, and I think this is incorrect, that you guys are a partial set secured chain on top of the Cosmos Hub, and that is incorrect, right? You guys are a sovereign chain.
Yeah, we are working off of the Cosmos SDK, but we are a sovereign chain. The reason for this is because we're running the oracles. So we can't exactly use other validators since they wouldn't be running the oracles as well. If we were to integrate with Cosmos Hub's validators, then we'd have to make sure that they could run those, or that they would not have excess votes that would then turn off the oracle system.
Yeah. So for those listening, we are super stoked to be a Symphony validator, and our machine should be up and running hopefully by the end of the day. And I was thrilled to see that you guys are integrated with Kepler. And since Aria is not out there just yet, Kepler's just a phenomenal product. The MLD token, the Melody token, how when, I guess is a better question, when will someone be able to acquire the MLD token? And then any idea what the approximate staking yield or inflation is going to be?
Oh, we're talking to StreamSwap about that, and then the Osmosis integration is going to be very easy. Osmosis, we can just get registered and it'll be super fast. With StreamSwap, though, we're talking to them about setting up essentially what would be a pre-sale to get the liquidity for that. Ideally, so I don't have to support it all on my own. But
Right.
with that, we're going to talk to StreamSwap about setting up with them. Other products have done so and been successful. And if we can do that, great. That'll be the first access point for getting Melody. After that, it's going to be Osmosis, Stride, and Ellis. We've talked to all of them. They're all very happy to work with us. And as long as things progress smoothly, it'll remain that way.
Right.
With the wallet
Well,
though, it's going to
go
be
ahead.
very, very easy once we get Transac in, because Aria is going to be going to be multi-chain, same as Kepler, and we're going to have additional integrations and everything. It's going to be very easy to access all of Cosmos because we're not doing the registry approach. We're going to be just pulling in those chains, and they're going to be native from the start. So you'll be able to access that as long as we get Transac in as well.
Gotcha. And so we're governors for Stride, we're governors and validators for Ellis, and then a validator for Osmosis. And so we thrilled to also be a validator for Symphony and to bring it all together. I think is really really cool. Um, so Symphony can peg tokens to any asset, including real estate and precious metals. And so correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, that's true. And then can you share some real world use cases, I guess, for real estate?
Yeah, no, I would not recommend doing it with real estate, but what that works well with is oil, gold, or
Hmm.
other precious metals, because commodities like that, you can trade commodities, and you can use commodities as currency. If you were to do it with your house, yes, you could absolutely trade with units of your house, but I
Sure.
don't know why you would want to do that. It's entirely possible, but I just don't know why you would want to do it.
You're the same kind of guy who would use 100x leverage. That's why.
Maybe. Yeah, that would make sense. Uh, what I would recommend though is to use our other token factory, because we do have one that maintains price at peg. But the other token factory is very, very good for market systems. So if you want to sell a house, you could do that. You could link into the same Oracle, but you could go through the other token factory, because what that then allows is for an initial price setting, but then also allow for market forces to affect it. So which is good for market systems. So if you want to have bids and asks on a house, then you could do that through that other system, and it would be just as good to use. But it wouldn't. The difference here is that it wouldn't be acting as a currency. It wouldn't be interchangeable with the stable coins. But in a market type scenario, that's the kind of thing that I don't think I think you would want to make sure that you're not losing units of that system on gas, and you're not using you're not trading out units of that system for, like, you're not trading away units of the house for gold or anything like that, or
So you
people
say
trading
token
into it.
factory, and I don't know if I like stream swap or what exactly are you talking about? Help me understand.
A token factory is a module that allows for creation of tokens with specific parameters. So you have things like an owner, or you have things like time to live for different aspects. So, like, for example, you could put in a rental contract for a house with specific value, or you could put and then you could put that, and keeping yourself as owner, you could put that as to someone else as a different holder, so that way they are receiving units of that rent that comes in for that. So that way, and this is very good for something like an investment platform. If you wanted to bring a lot of people in for a rental investment, and then pay them automatically, that's something that would be very good for a situation like that. So
And
that
so does Symphony have its own token factory, or is another one plugged in?
Yeah, we have two of them. We have one for
Gotcha.
stablecoins, and then we have one for more general tokens that would be good. That would be better for market type systems, like the one I just described
And is
with
that
the
something that a
Bitcoin.
retail person could access?
Yeah, yeah. Now, anything like this is completely accessible, because anything that you do on the internet is just creating the portal for it. As long as you can access it, as long as you can access it via the portal, you're good. No one wants to interact with the API except for developers,
Right.
but
Yeah, that's
set
for
it up
sure.
that way, it's very easy for anyone.
Okay. And then I heard you mention previously something about staking of tokenized assets.
Mhm.
What is the flow that a user would go through in order to stake, one of the tokenized assets that they've got on Symphony? And would that be you can stake any currency that's tokenized or just the Melody token?
Yeah, you can stake any tokenized currency. Now, not all of them affect governance, and that's for a reason. We want governance to go through Melody, even though there's going to be a declining amount of Melody over time.
Love it.
It's made to drop the supply as the stablecoin use goes up. Um, with so with that, we do have governance go through that specifically. That way, the voters, the people who enact the governance through that, they are focused on increasing the value of Melody and aligned to that. Uh, the stablecoins, they go through a slightly separate module that still gets them staking rewards through the usual staking systems. But what that does is that converts into their stablecoin, and it does so without staking to a validator specifically. So that allows them to participate in staking, add to total value locked, and do so without affecting governance, so that it's Melody holders who vote on things and try to increase the value of Melody specifically.
Cool. I love it. Um, How, what's the motivation for a TradFi institution, whether it's banking as a service or I don't know, something along those lines? What's their motivation to use Symphony to integrate with you, to talk to you, all that kind of stuff? How does it benefit them?
Well, with all the stablecoins around, with every company trying to make their own stablecoin, it becomes too unwieldy. So imagine everyone having their own Twitter. Like, for example, Donald Trump has his. If he did not have someone who ran back and forth to try to tell everyone, it's like, here's what he said, then no one would know what he's talking about over there on Truth. Like, no one would know.
Right.
So having everyone have their own Twitter doesn't make sense, and having everyone have their own stablecoin doesn't make sense. The moment you have that many options, at that point you need another. You're back where you started, and you need another layer in order to add interoperability to all of those. So if everyone has Twitter, you need another layer that interacts with everyone's Twitter that everyone can then go to, post to, and read what they've got. Now all of a sudden you have another Twitter, like what you had in the first place before everyone made it too complex. The world is simple. People make it complicated every single time. Now, what you have with stablecoins is if everyone has their own stablecoin, you need an interop solution just like that. So that's where we would come in. If Bank of America wants to do business with I don't know of any. None of the names of the banks in China are coming to mind right now. But if they want to do business with a bank in China or a bank in Russia or a bank in the Philippines, they absolutely could. If each of those different ones has their own stablecoin, then that becomes very difficult to interact with them through the Bank of America stablecoin. So that's where we come in. They trade out their stablecoin, they get the other one, and they transact with that. If they want to use ours instead, they could do that too. And ours are completely and we're going to ours are currently completely interchangeable between currencies. And what we're going to do as we add in those other modules is make sure that those stablecoins are interoperable with ours as well. So that way
So
you can change out USDC in order directly to HCNY, so directly to our Chinese yuan stablecoin, and not have any issues in between.
then is it analogous to say that you're almost like a Swift system as an intermediary, or is that not correct?
Yeah, you could see it as a switch system. Essentially, we would be like what comes to mind with that is those videos of is those old timey videos of the ladies moving the switchboard.
Yeah.
But like we'd essentially be acting like a forex or a forex, but with like
Right.
multiple types of US dollars on it as
When you
well.
said the old timey system moving the chords, it makes me think of all the John Wick movies when they call in a
Yeah,
hit.
yeah.
So, with the AI and the Aria wallet, is there a timeline that you can give out of when the Aria wallet might be available for the mainstream?
Well, should we start making an income off all this, it becomes a lot easier because then I can hire out some developers to work on the more complex points. What we're going to do first, though, is we're going to make sure I want to get that in soon, though. But before that, I want to make sure that we get in Transact. Transact is a way that we can get in on and off ramping, and a way that we can make revenue. If we make revenue, it doesn't have to be much, but if we make so we can undercut other people as long as we focus on that. But if we make a revenue, we can start paying developers off of that. That becomes a lot easier to either expand the team or to just ease the burden on my wallet. As well as to prop up the price, because if we're buying our own coins, like that helps out everyone else that's a token holder. Now
So, how far off is an integration with Transact?
oh, that's very easy. I just need to go back and take a look at that. With like what we're doing right now though is we're finishing up the stablecoin staking and we're putting that in. So as long as that gets out, then we can move over onto that. And start working on that Transact integration. After the Transact integration goes in, then the AI is going to be going in because I want to make sure that the devs have time to look over my code to make sure that there aren't any issues, that you can do everything with it. Now it is going to be gated. It is going to be limited to a point. One, pay gating because we have to pay for the AI servers, but that would be a very small cost, very very small. It's like it's a fraction of a penny per call. So like it's negligible. But I want to make sure that they can get into that. They can look at my code and make sure that there aren't any issues. One of those things that we want to make sure is that it is limited in what you can query for. I don't want people querying for like how to make an H bomb on my AI. So because that's going to call questions to me. So I want to limit that stuff to just financial applications and ideally to start just what you can do in the wallet, and then we expand outwards slowly from there.
So, collaborations within the ecosystem is Akash, to run servers for AI. Is that something that is on the plate, is on the menu? Collaborations like that, or am I kind of looking at it wrong?
We were going to run our own for that because there's
Okay.
there's the intent parser service that we also need to stand up for that. So with that, it is entirely possible if they can do it cheaper. Yeah, we can integrate with that.
Okay.
But otherwise, we are still going to have costs for two different systems that are on there. One is the LLM that parses that parses your words into the intent, and then the other is the intent parser that then translates that into wallet actions. So both of those things are costs, and if one of them gets moved, it would be the LLM. If they can do that cheaper than what we're working with right now, we can work with them absolutely.
So who are the ideal partners Symphony would want to collaborate with?
Anyone that wants to use our stablecoins, really, it's like literally anyone that wants to have a stablecoin service or simplify the stablecoin offering, so that way they can just show like US dollars on their system. Absolutely. If you want to change it so you can just show digital dollars instead of USDC, USDT, USDE, USDN, USD whatever, then absolutely work with us. That's what we're working towards to make things simpler. You work with us, we can help you get there, and then that'll make things better on the user experience side for everyone.
So I know collaboration versus competition is kind of more of I think the MO that Symphony is going for, and so I think about Noble USDC and USDT on Kava. Is the idea just to bring in those tokens from those chains so they're also on Symphony, and then you're just this huge dex of stablecoins, large and small, for everybody?
Yeah, essentially. But we also want to put our stablecoins on other systems as well. Our tokenomics
Sure.
are specifically designed so that way, as our stablecoins are used, or stablecoin systems are used, the supply of Melody contracts. So, like, even if you're using USDC through our systems, the supply of Melody would contract in order to build up that underlying reserve layer that I mentioned before. So, as the system is used, or as we put our own stablecoins out on other systems, that supply is still contracting, which benefits token holders. So we are literally built. Our tokenomics are literally built. We've got in order to support us working with everyone else, for everyone to use our system. It very literally benefits us to put these on other chains, so that way people in those other ecosystems are using the system and we're working with them as opposed to against them. And then bringing in other stablecoins. If we are acting as a one-stop communication system between all these different stablecoins, then what we end up having is a situation where we benefit from working with every other stablecoin provider. That would be USDN. That would be Kujira. Should they get another one up and want to take another crack at it, we can support them. We could support USDE. We could support USDC and USDT from Athena. We could absolutely do this as long as we get in those additional modules. We can support all of them. And at that point, it becomes a system where we are working with them instead of against them.
So then how do you envision Symphony evolving as all this stuff moves forward, as tokenization moves forward, as more and more stable coins are on chain? Is there, I don't know, like what are the metrics that you're going to look at to determine your progress?
Well, we have total value locked. That's the base. That's a good base for any chain. Total value locked. You want to make sure that people are still holding your native coin. And with ours, essentially, through all this, with ours essentially becoming a way to speculate on stablecoin use, I think that's useful. But then we also have number of wallets, number of active wallets. That's not a great measure on number of active users, but it is a good
Right.
measure of how much your system is being used, as well as so number of active wallets, and then also there's a volume tracker for the amount of volume that's moving. That one too. I don't remember what that one's called, but something to do with volume.
So what are the next major milestones or features that you guys are working on in the coming months? And like, what are you most excited about?
One, I want to get the exchange up so that way we can start supporting these other stablecoins. That one, that one I want to make sure that we get out. Uh, that one will allow us to connect to all these other stablecoins and start working with them, so that way we can start creating this simpler system for everyone. Another would be the AI aspect of the wallet. I want to make sure that that gets out, so that way we can start simplifying things from that aspect. At that point, you could essentially have your crypto wallet on an Apple Watch or something. As long as we can add in voice recognition, that's something that we would want to move towards. As long but that is something where we want to make sure that if we get to that extra step, that we do have voice recognition for it.
So
But we
let
want
me
to
jump in there real quick. The one thing
be
that scares me about that, I
Mhm.
use voice recognition on my Android all the time instead of keying in because I type with one finger like an old guy. And
Mhm.
so I speak into it, and
Yeah, doing
it incorrectly, uh, it's wrong a lot. And so I guess my question is, when something is on chain and it can't be reversed,
Mhm.
what are the safeguards or the rails put in place so that the AI picks up on what I'm asking it to do correctly instead of putting through an incorrect transaction that I can't undo?
I can actually show you. Now we've got. I can show you the intent parser if you want to
Yeah,
see
look,
it.
I don't know if I'm not sure if can you share your screen? I'm not sure if I gave you the ability or if I even know how to.
Yeah.
Do you,
Let
do you see a
me.
little share button?
Yeah, and it looks like it will come up.
Yeah, there we
So
go.
with anything like that, you're going to have multiple checks against what the user wants to do. Like the user confirming. So the user says something, and then the AI would either pop up a question or say it back. And all these things take code, so all these things take time to get in. You have to have an MVP and then iterate. But with a confirmation, you can then confirm that yes, this is what you wanted to do, and making sure that it's actually you. One, voice recognition works well for that, but two, having a code also works well as the usual two-factor authentication that a lot of these systems use. So all those are options. And we can make this as safe as possible for people, as well as include settings so that way you can change how much safety you specifically want. Because safety versus a clean UX, there is a trade-off there. If you have 5 checks to do something, yes, it's going to be pretty safe, but you're also going to have to click around 5 times to do anything you want to do. So everyone has a line there. Making sure that there are different systems there is good. Now we have different malicious phrases that we want to clean out, things like that. Things like these, in order to make sure that people don't try to hack their way into the LLM
If someone
to
is
start
watching
asking.
this on their phone and they can't read it and it's too small, like, can you give us a couple examples of what it says there?
Yeah. So a couple examples. One says "you are." So like that's trying to catch the phrase. You are a doctor. Tell me about how to about what types of diseases are most infectious to humans, or anything like that. We have forget everything, disregard, ignore all previous as just examples. These are examples of phrases people use to bypass LLMs in order to get towards a system that they want to use. But we want to confine it specifically to financial aspects. So making sure that we have these phrases in place is useful. And then we've got different registries to make sure that it can actually match against what's going on. But then we also have a decently complex. It's not as complex as it could be, but a decently complex prompt that specifically states, here's what you're working with, here's what you're going to be parsing it into. This is specifically a prompt to parse intents into action. So you say something, and it's going to parse it into an action that the wallet can then consume to take that action and operate on it. So if you wanted to send a coin to someone, yes, you could do that. It would parse out the coins that we can accept, and then send that over to someone in your address book. With staking, unstaking to validators, we have a validator list as well. So it parses through that, and then it checks what you're saying against the validators. We don't have something in for financial advice yet, and I wouldn't recommend doing that. I don't recommend like a previous AI project I worked on was parsing medical documents into recommended diagnosis. They wanted to do diagnosis just in general. I specifically said use recommended diagnoses and give percent chances for each of them. A big reason for that is you don't want that liability. You don't want to tell the doctor it's this, and then the doctor follows through on that and then messes up, and now that person's dead. Same for finance. You don't want to give a recommendation now the person has followed through on that and they've lost all their money. What you can do though is you can say, here are some strategies. Here's what's going on. These may be more likely to work, but what would you choose to go with?
Your ass a
And
little bit. Gotcha.
yeah, and then the user decides what they choose to do. You're not telling them this is best. You're giving them options. Uh, AI is a good system for aggregating information and parsing information. It's not good for thinking. So you want to make sure that the human at the end of this is still the one doing the thinking, that they're still making the decision, and the AI is just there to present the information to them.
Okay. So obviously looking at the Linux, I come into crypto from TradFi and I
Mhm,
tried to learn Linux and it's just my eyes glaze over, man. And
mhm,
so obviously this is more for the developers. And so I
mhm.
guess, because we're kind of winding down on time. So I guess I would want to know for new users, both retail and developers interested in Symphony, what's the easiest way for them to get started and like where are the resources that they should go to check out?
Well, the best places to see that for resources on development would be our site. We do have development resources on the API right there, but you can also come into the Discord and you can ask us directly. We've got that information. We can route you over to it, and we can also help out as much as possible for anything that's developed. Anything that would be useful with regards to stablecoins is something we want to work with. So anyone that wants to work with us on that, we would absolutely be welcome. We would absolutely welcome into joining the team or to working with us, so that way we could help them get off the ground while they're helping us.
Okay. And then finally, tell us about the airdrop that's coming. And then also for everybody who's listening, we do keep an airdrop list on our website. So if you just go to atlas-staking.com in the menu, you can click on Cosmos airdrops, and we will add Symphony there soon because I know the testnet kind of ended, and that was the first part of the airdrop. But I will stop taking words out of your mouth and let you explain the rest.
Oh, no worries. So we've got three so far. Now, those are only the ones that are announced. We also have others that are coming later, and each one has a different purpose. Now, the testnet one is over. We have that one hasn't gone out yet, but it is over with regards to the snapshots. Those are taken. The testnet information has been taken, and those amounts have been aggregated, including the additional rewards for the people who have taken part within our community and helped us grow. Now, that part will be continuing. We do have specific roles in the Discord for community builders, and those will get rewards for each of those different areas. That information is specifically stated on the site as well, should anyone want to go through that. But for the next airdrops, the next one is going to be one that is focused on getting people to know about us and bringing in people who are likely to be investors. So we do have specific communities that we're going to be targeting on that one as well. We're also going to have information on that, and we're talking to OmniFlix about that one. So very ideally, we'll be able to pull that one out in order to get people to learn about us, so that they might be interested in going over to StreamSwap and pre-purchasing some of those coins, which lets us get that liquidity. The third one is going to be a fair drop. That one's going to be based specifically on-chain activity. So it's going to be rewarding people who stake, as an example, and increase our total value locked. Others will be announced as they come around, but those are going to be things for like different apps and use cases of our stablecoins in order to incentivize that. For example, with the Aria wallet, maybe we have one for using for people who use the AI in order to try to get people to start using that. Maybe we have one for an app that comes on chain. Maybe we have one for the neobank as we get that up. Don't know. Those we've only got the three planned so far, but we do have in planned that we are going to have other airdrops as well.
Okay.
Uh, but we also have other ways to earn that. For example, NFT groups that want to join up with us. We do have two that are interested so far, and in exchange for denominating the NFT set in one of our stablecoins or within our native coin. We help turn that set yield bearing, which incentivizes people to buy that set,
Which is
as
awesome.
well as gets us a use case on our stablecoins.
Very cool. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's wrap up because I think we're at an hour or even plus, and we'll do some closing speed questions just for fun. And so, first thing that comes to mind: Coke or Pepsi?
I would take Coke. I think that one's the one with Sprite.
Well, coffee or tea?
Tea. I go for yeah, yeah. I go for tea generally. I'm half British.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs. Cats are assholes.
Phone call or text message?
Text. It's much faster.
Netflix or YouTube?
I would say neither. I go for I like the Pirate Bay.
Pirate Bay. I don't know. Gotcha. Check you out. How about pizza or cheeseburger?
That depends on the day.
Okay, and we're getting there. Physical book or ebook?
Uh, Physical, like ebook is good for traveling, but physical, I do like being able to save place and turn the pages.
Yeah, I like to underline stuff. Action or comedy?
Depends on the day.
Okay. Metallica t-shirts are rock and roll or hip hop?
I would say rock and roll. I'm never really gotten into hip hop.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl, definitely night owl.
Sitting on the beach or camping in the mountains?
I would say mountains. There are some really nice waterfalls that I've seen, so I'm gonna go with that one.
All right, two more. Big party or small get together?
Small get together.
Me too. And last one, road trip with friends or romantic getaway with a significant other?
I would say road trip. Romantic getaways can be nice, but the road trip sounds like it would be a lot more fun. Like a lot more things are going to be happening.
Nice. Well, Matt, I really appreciate you joining us. And for everyone who is watching, you can go to orchestralabs.org to learn more about Symphony. And you'll see social links there where you can reach out to David directly if you want to get involved, if you know people who he might collaborate with to help grow the chain, etc. And listen, man, we look forward to being a validator and to supporting you throughout. And hope you have an absolutely amazing day.
Yeah, thank you. You as well.
All right, buddy. Bye bye.